Hey, what's up, fam? It's Chappell, host of the Recap Kickback podcast, here for another exit interview from the We Know Reality TV podcast coverage of Fox's new reality show, The Snake. With me, my lovely co-host Jenny Autumn, and the runner-up of The Snake, Brett. Brett, you did it. You made it to
Um,
the end. What's up, man?
I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good. Obviously didn't catch the win, but I'm grateful nonetheless.
Brett, it's been so fun watching you play this season, but we do have a few questions, and I do want to ask specifically about the end because you made such a valiant effort in the game and came in second place. But is there anything you think that you could have done differently in order to secure that win against Frankie?
Choose someone else, but it was a lot harder than it looked. Emotions are high, and I absolutely love Frank. I have nothing bad to say about him. On a personal, or I'll say this, on a competitive level, do I think it was a little biased? And this isn't me being like a sore loser. Again, I'm happy he won. I genuinely have nothing to complain about. I love that he won. He earned it. From a competitive point of view, do I think it was a little biased? 100%. 100%.
So when you say you would have picked someone else, who do you have in mind?
Derek, Catherine, Jack, or McLean.
Yeah, I think from the show perspective, it was very obvious that those were your people. So going in, we were watching it thinking, they're definitely about to eliminate these people. Like if Frankie knows anything, like what he's doing, he's gonna make sure those people are not in the running. So you do end up landing on Mayor John.
Yeah, yeah, we do. I nothing against Frank at all. We had a little bit of a scuttle in the beginning because in the first person we have to choose is together, I believe. Then after that, it goes back and forth. And Amanda, everyone, all the snakes down there have to give their spiel as to why we should choose them. Amanda was the only one that was like, if you want to lose $100,000, choose me. And I was like, hey, Frank, we've had a genuine relationship from what I have experienced. If you want to do this fairly, let's get rid of a man. I know that Alyssa's your girl, but if we want to win this fairly, let's get rid of the one person that is clearly saying, hey, I don't want Brett. Everyone else is saying, I'm going to give it a fair shot, brother. And he kind of disagreed with that. And I was like, fine, fine. I love you, Frank. Fine. I know I'm personable. I know I've been honest this game. I'm sure I could convince anybody here to crown me. So we get rid of Jack, McLean, all that, and then it comes down to I knew Jacob wasn't going to pick me, nothing against Jacob, and it came to John. So I was like, all right, how can I relate to him, be honest, and give such a compelling argument? So in that moment, I had to think like, all right, he claims he claims that he's a different politician. He claims he's here for a competitive reason, X, Y, and Z. So I was like, all right. So if we're going by statistics from a competitive point of view, not a personal, competitive point of view, I have every attribute. I did every challenge. I was honest. I strategized. I was in the pit multiple times, came out of it, won the snake, did all these things. Frank did not. Frank was in the pit once. He had the social game down 100%. And this is not me discrediting anything Frank did. He deserves that victory. But from a competitive point of view, he didn't do one to two of the challenges. He kind of skated by. I thought that was a little unfair. So I was like, John, I remember my speech. I was like, you say you're a different politician. You're all about what the people want. I believe that you believe you're a different politician. So if you pick Frank, you're basically a liar, and I'm going to bring you down with me. But if you pick me, then you're playing the game fairly. So that's where my thoughts on it being a little biased was unfair because I knew that when it was John, I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, F, like this is going to be tough. Like I really gotta give a compelling argument, and I believe I did. I don't want to embellish, but I thought my speech was good. It was
We
true.
liked it.
Frank did
Oh yeah.
Frank did laugh. And so like when he's saying like Frank's like, I was honest, I was like, I was too. He's like, I know, hold on. But in my mind, I was like, dude, I watched the show. Like you weren't honest about half the stuff he said. So you're lying. But you're doing whatever he's doing whatever he has it takes to win, and I did too. The cards unfolded against me. Not a big deal. That's from a competitive point of view. Personally, I don't really care. Second, that's great. Shout out to Frank. That's awesome. And it was just like, great. How am I going to do this? And I know I had some heads turning, even like Alyssa, Catherine, the production, they were all like, holy crap, like, who's John going to choose? And then John and we had a private conversation after the show. It was a good conversation. Um, but from a competitive point of view, this isn't me being a sore loser. I genuinely think it was a little biased. As a viewer, it's like, did you assume like, oh, it's John? Brett lost, or is it like, let's actually see what John's gonna do? That's me asking.
Well,
Yeah.
honestly, like this is what our opinion of it was, is that you made an incredibly compelling argument, obviously very directed at John, talking about how he presents himself as a politician and appealing to the way that he sees himself. So, given that you were against like a very formidable opponent, the pitch was, very, very strong. And I do think that it probably made it more difficult for John than it would have been otherwise, because obviously, having watched the show, we know that John was friends with Frank. So if you're looking at friendship and relationships, you might automatically assume. But I think, definitely challenging John and his identity as a politician was an interesting way of going at it, and it definitely made a really good argument for it. Um, it might have been one of those things where it didn't really
It was
matter.
an uphill battle.
Frankie's got a lot of friends,
Oh man,
out there.
so sad.
But Brett, I'm very curious, because we hear a lot from you throughout the season about wanting to compete against the best at the end, and that playing into you and Jordan being the double-headed snake and trying to decide who to eliminate late in the game there. Obviously you didn't really have any control over who you stood next to at the end there. But in your eyes, what was the ideal situation of who you wanted to compete with for the win there?
Just like the like instead of Frank,
Based on the
someone
final six, like,
Yeah.
we get down to the final six
either
here.
either Derek or Jack. I thought it would have been interesting. I know sure as shit Jack and I would have split the winnings 50-50, even if we're not allowed to do that. I know we would have done that. We definitely would not have done that.
Wink.
Uh, no, I think that would have been cool because viewers have been like, they love each other, man. Like they're bros since day one. Like, how is this going to unfold? Like, are they going to attack each other? Are they going to be honorable? Derek, he's him and Amanda, I would say, were one of the smartest people on the show. I'll not to be cocky, I'll put myself aside, but no, Derek or Jack, and it has nothing to do with physical attributes. It was Jack the same way Frank would have chosen John or Alyssa. That's how me and Jack were. Derek, ours was strictly gentleman's agreement. Him and I are the most physically dominant people there. He's smart. We have a lot in common. And I know that he would have made crazy objections in his speech. I know him and I would have had some friendly banter. We would have made it interesting. And I think that because Derek was all about like hyping it up. He's like, yeah. Like when you saw him getting shocked, I was like getting hyped up. I'm like, yeah, dude, like let's go. Like this is gonna be crazy. So in a perfect world, one of them, I have no complaints going against Frank. I like to believe that I played every single, uh, I'd say, like I strategized. I was honest. I did every competition. I thought I had all the attributes from every angle. Personally, I think Frank just had, and in respect to him, he did most of the challenges. Like he still did it. Every time someone did a challenge, I gave him all a hug. I said, hey, like that was crazy. Good job. But he had the social game down. Everything else was kind of wishy-washy. So that's why in the saving ceremony, I said, John, you want to talk about being fair? Let's look at the statistics here. I've done everything. I've been in the pit multiple times. I came out of it. I strategized. I've done everything. I've won. I've lost. All these things. Frank has done half of that. And that's not bashing Frank. It's like, as a competitor, as in a competition, let's look at it from a whole. Since you are a politician, right? You want what the people want. You want to be fair. So that's why in my speech, I was like, hey, like, you're either full of shit or you're not. And if you are, I'm going to make sure everybody knows it because I'm trying to win. So yeah, genuinely, it went the way it was supposed to go. It's out of my control. So to answer your
Yeah.
question, yeah, Jack or Derek, but it wasn't. So it is what it is.
Brett, Jenny and I watch a lot of these shows, and the prevailing strategy for a lot of them, because they come down to, what the past players think, kind of like in your situation. Of course, you have no way of knowing that going in, but typically we're looking for the person who is like, okay, who am I going to bring in that I can beat? Is there anybody that you thought, like, if it's me and them, I got it, because it looks like Frankie would have been tough. Obviously, you lose to Frankie. As you said, you and Derek are probably a good match for each other. You and Jack are probably like, listen, it don't matter who wins. But what's your ideal situation if you like, I want to come in and crush whoever this is?
Is John still the deciding factor?
No, 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 no. Let's say somebody else. Let's say if it's you and Jordan in the end. Do you think you have a good chance of beating Jordan?
Yeah, I love Jordan to death, and I think I would have won.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Because
think I would.
we were looking at it, and like this crazy challenge that gets you to the end, right? This dice roll, sir. You are the luckiest man in America to just be able to get this
Yeah.
like way before everybody else. But it puts you in a position where you don't really have any say so in who you're sitting next
Yeah.
to at the end. And so yeah, you do end up next to Frankie. But yeah, I was definitely thinking like maybe Jordan would have been a little bit easier for you to come in and sweep the victory.
Yeah, I mean, even in the box challenge, like, I can't say anything to Jack. I'm trying to help him. I'm like, dude, turn the F around. They didn't say you're not allowed to look and see what other people are doing. Like, I was trying to help him.
Mm.
Uh, at that stage, though, I don't, like I said, I personally haven't seen the finale yet, but I know that when we're standing in front of the boxes, Jim's like, who's the biggest threat to you, or something like that. I said, well, I have to kind of think. It's like in boxing. It's like I've underestimated people that I thought I would absolutely demolish. Did I still win? Yeah, but was I beat to a pulp? 100%. So I had that mindset where it's like, I said I don't underestimate anybody here because they made it here for a reason, whether it's socially or physically, intellectually, they're all here for a reason. So I was being true. I was like, whoever's here now is going to be a fierce competitor because Amanda's gone, Derek's gone, John's gone, all these people that were whether it was on Reddit or podcasts, all these heavy hitters. Like I was wrote off so many times. I was some gym bro. No, I
Yeah,
was literally playing chess. I was thinking weeks ahead, and I didn't care what people thought. So it was one of those things where it's like, well, whoever I face, I'm just gonna go headstrong at it because I don't have a choice. Like it's one of those things where I do not have a choice. So I can't pick.
yeah.
So yeah, my answer is like it is what it is type of
Hmm.
situation.
What was it frustrating to, because obviously, again, the competitions were a big part of, your game, and you came out and played hard in all of them. And um was the fact that, obviously you can't be mad at rolling dice and that being, guaranteeing your place in the final two. But was it frustrating to have to sit there and watch, a different kind of uh competition that I think you probably would have liked to compete in, and then have to just watch and wait to see who wins it, ultimately to see who you're going to face here? How was that to watch that?
It's pretty difficult. It's like I like to believe I'm an outgoing guy, and I do like helping people, and not being able to help Jack, Jordan, or honestly anybody was frustrating. It was sad, like seeing people's defeated look towards the end. But at the end of the day, I had to resort back to like, hey, this isn't real. It's a competition. So even if Jack goes home, you still got to focus on what's ahead. You can't be emotionally compromised. Like you have to get your shit together. You can talk, hug and kiss Jack after the show. That's fine. But whoever you're going up against, you can't underwrite them at all. Like Frankie, he has the emotional side and has the social thing. Jordan, same type of thing. Alyssa kind of just had Frank, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I wasn't worried about Alyssa at all. Jack, I just wanted my boy to like have some level of confidence because he was also sick during that. They don't show it, like he had the stomach issue, so he had to run off set to
Mm.
go to the bathroom, and they didn't stop it. Like they kept going, so that was he was at a disadvantage, and just seeing the frustration on his face, I was like, it was very disheartening. I was like, he knows he's gonna lose. He knows he's gonna lose, and I can't help him. And
Mm.
all the attorneys there are like, is Brett saying something? Is he doing something? I'm like, I'm not saying anything, but like Jack, turn the F around. Look, you got this one wrong. So it was a little sad.
That's
So
tough.
yeah,
Right.
but
You had an incredible run on the show. Like you said, people kind of counted you out, but you made your way all the way to the end. What was it that inspired you to even go on a show like this? And would you consider doing more competition reality shows?
oh, 100%, 100%. It was definitely, it's good to disconnect from the world. I do that time and time again. Haven't been to the Amazon. I love adventure. I love meeting new people. It's nice to disconnect and actually be with your thoughts and make genuine relationships. So the relationships you form in there, people are like, oh, you're best friends with them. You only need them for a month or two. They don't get it. You won't understand unless you're there. 100% would go on other shows. It was a big spiritual journey for me. I had another opportunity on another show, took this one, and it went against everything I believed in. So I was like, how ironic would it be if I made it to the end by being honest, while being, strategizing and being a competitor, but walking in faith in my religion versus conforming to like greed and backstabbing people, because that's not who I am. So molding that around my strategy was a little difficult, but it also it shed a lot of light on people's characters. You learn a lot because you're with each other all the time. You can overhear certain things. You're strategizing. You don't know who to trust. Everybody's kind of in it for themselves. So you really had to think. That's why the first few episodes, you don't see me a lot. I'm portrayed a certain way, but I'm literally like thinking long term, like, all right, if this person gets eliminated next week, how can I talk to this person that? If I form this relationship with that and have this conversation, or I purposefully lose this challenge, how's this going to unfold? Like I was thinking like weeks ahead. So purposefully losing challenge, that pissed me off. I couldn't try because they put a target on my back. Me, Jack, and Devontae, we ran that shit for the first 4 or 5 episodes. And I knew I was like, at some point, this rocket's going to come crashing down. So how can I make sure my boys are safe, or at least Jack, because Devontae's gone? How can I make sure that Jack's safe with McLean? Well, I have to plant that seed with Derek and do it in a respectful, honorable way, where if I have his back, I know sure as shit, even though there's a shadow of a doubt with him and Amanda, I know like, what if his daughter's going to be watching this and is like, Daddy, you're a liar. Like, how can I I'm thinking of like everything, every avenue and how to approach this in an appropriate manner where I'm not a piece of shit. So yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. I did a lot of thinking on that show. Like I was in the shadows, just like, oh no, I lost this challenge. Oh no. And then episode 7 or 8 came around. I was like, all right, gloves are off. Like let's go. I don't care what happens. Like let's run it. So
Was there anything that shocked you watching it back? Because obviously you're experiencing the show from your perspective and you have your alliances and people. But when you start to see everyone's confessionals and stuff, what were some big surprises for you watching this back?
I feel like I had everyone down to a T. Catherine was the villain. She lied a lot. And again, this is personally, everything I'm about to say personally, I have nothing against any of these people. From a
Yeah.
competitive point of view, Catherine was the biggest liar. Pastor Jacob, second biggest liar. John, there's a conversation, first 12 hours in the house, he tries to attack my character without even knowing anything about me. And the first thing, they don't show me saying when he comes out of the box at the dinner, everyone goes around. It came to me, they didn't show it, but I said, hey, listen, you're a politician. You're used to people blowing smoke up your ass. I will be no bullshit with you. I will be honest and loyal to you. I'll be upfront with you as long as you reciprocate that and do not attack my character. If you do that, I will make sure as shit you leave this house. Literally the next day, comes up to me because he thought he overheard something and says I'm X, Y, and Z. And again, John's a great guy. Him and I actually had the most deep conversations. Like they don't show it, but I think like I said, I haven't seen the finale. I think John may or may in the speech he says, Brett, you and I have had some of the most challenging conversations. Like that's true. And whether we have similar beliefs or different beliefs, I wish nothing but blessings for him. But we he's a politician. I knew that he was going to resort to his politic behavior. So what do me and the boys do? Alyssa tells John, oh my gosh, the boys are running around. No, we did that on purpose. We want to inflate his ego. If we inflate his ego, he's going to resort back to his politic tendency, and that's going to be his downfall. He said my downfall was something, and I said your downfall is that you think you're the smartest person here. And when I said I'm a veteran, you just got off the boat, I meant that. I didn't mean it. There's friendly shit talk. I've been in sports my whole life. I'm never going to attack someone's character. At the dinner, I didn't say anything bad about him. I kept my mouth shut. Did I say he was a walking whatever? That was just me chatting shit to kind of stir shit up. I definitely could have said something worse, but that's not who I am. I have nothing but respect for him. He's done a lot for his community. Although we have different beliefs or whatever, doesn't matter. But he attacked my character right out of the bat. And I was like, okay, I'm going to exploit your weakness. Like in the scavenger hunt, they show me saying, who do you want to choose? I said, John. Before I said his name, I said, I'm only choosing this person because you have the advantage. And I prefaced that because I wanted to see John's reaction. If he had an emotional reaction, I knew that he was emotionally invested in the game and I could emotionally compromise him. Therefore, going into my strategy of blowing smoke up his ass, doing everything he says, because like Catherine said, you're making the biggest mistake of your life by gunning for us. So even Frank says, he's riding this ego horse. Like he's going crazy. He's dictating everyone around. So we let him. And I used his own weakness against him, whether it was just me or multiple people. he dug his own grave by he pissed off all the heavy hitters in the house. So we all came together. They didn't show it. We came together. We're like, hey, we're going to use this against him. We'll let him think he's the smartest person. And he was a great player. I think if he came into the show the same time as all of us, I think the show would have been a lot different. I do think that. His also, one of his biggest weaknesses was only forming an alliance with Alyssa and Frank. Whether those relationships are real or not, again, they're all amazing people. I know they're all still friends. I have nothing against any of them, but from a competitive point of view, that was his immediate downfall because he knew that people didn't want to hurt their feelings, so he knew he could coast by. But it was a short-lived experience because, again, like I'm not saying I'm better than him. I'm not throwing shade at him. He was a great player, but I did use my brain. I did play stupid. I did utilize all the attributes God gave me. Like in the bucket challenge, he didn't put any in his thing. Me and Derek went up to him after. I'm like, hey, how many coins did you put in your bucket? He's like, 0. I'm like, dude, you're a moron. Why would you do it? Just give yourself a chance. And then he acknowledges that he's like, yeah, I probably should have done that. But by you doing that, you're showing everyone else in the house that you're banking on Frank. And you even said, hopefully Frank can misdirect these bullets. It's like, dude, whatever relationship you have with Frank, that's no one's business. I respect that. You guys have private conversations, whatever. But to everyone else's eyes, you're just using Frank for safety, for a safety net. That is zero strategy in that. I thought you were a lot smarter than that. So that's why in the finale, I basically call him out saying, I believe that you believe you're a different politician. If you're basing it off what the people want, statistics, I've done everything. So if you don't pick me, you're biased, you're a liar, and you're full of shit. But if you do pick me, then you are who you say you are. And that's not me throwing, again, I know it sounds kind of like a back passive aggressive. I don't mean it like that. I have nothing but good things to say about John. Where there's certain things he did on the show that rubbed me the wrong way. Oh yeah, all these guys are insecure. Dude, it's a game of strategy. Not everything. Jim Jeffries says it on day one. Not everything is as it seems. You think I'm stupid? I'm going to let you think I'm stupid. You think I'm cocky? I'm going to let you think I'm cocky. You think I'm whatever? Great. Guess what? You're going to go home next week because I'm a man of my word. I literally told you as soon as you got out of the box, if you do this, you will leave. What does he do? He did exactly what I told him not to do. So how can I do that behind the scenes? Well, we did it. We all came together, and it kind of it bit me in the ass in the end. But I really tried. I really tried. Yeah. And again, I have nothing against John. He played his game. He made his relationships. He assumed people were a certain way. He has his own lifestyle and beliefs, and that played a crucial role. But I know that at some point, if you get too emotionally invested, your real personality comes out. You forget you're on camera and mic'd up, and your past tendencies will come out. So if you're a politician, you're a detective, at some point that is naturally going to come out. So by deductive reasoning, if I can exploit that emotionally or get any sort of reaction, I know I have the upper hand on you. So in the scavenger hunt, when he was like, see ya, I was like, that's why when Alyssa picked me, I was like, okay, because I got what I wanted. I got all the information I wanted. I was like, he's emotionally invested in this game, clearly has a vendetta against me, is either threatened or something. I'm going to roll with it because I know what's going to happen. I've been here for 4.5 weeks. You've been here for effing 4 days, buddy. Like, not to sound cocky, but like, you have no idea what you're doing at all. So
right. You were definitely able to call your shot when it came to him. And it was so much fun watching you play, but we do have to wrap up. Please tell everybody where they can follow you and where they can keep up with you on social media.
Just Brett, I think it's just Brett Koval on Instagram or TikTok, whatever. I should probably do YouTube. Maybe I'll hop on that too, but that's it. I'm very grateful. And again, I have nothing against anybody on the show. They're all great individuals. Everything I said here was strictly from a competitive. This is me saving, but no, it was strictly as me being honest. Can prove all that. Everything I said could be proven, and it was just strictly from a competitive point of view. Like I said, personally, talk to everyone, not a couple people, but everybody else. We talk literally every day in a group chat, so we're all good.
All right, Brett. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brett.
All right, y'all. That was Brett, the runner-up from the season 1 finale of The Snake. To keep up with more of our coverage from The Snake or other reality TV shows, please subscribe to the We Know Reality TV podcast feed on WeKnowRealityTV.com. Peace.
This is RHAP. We Know Reality TV.